So now let's get into week number 3. Week 3 begins with transition words. We want to add a few more. Synonyms for the phrase in other words, synonyms for example, and synonyms for as a result or because of this or consequently. A lot of times in AP classes, students learn a variety of acronyms. And so this year I came up with a very, very simple acronym called backflip. Not just because I like Bruce Lee and not just because um, my class is decorated like a dojo. Back stands for do the background first. Talk about the author, the speaker, the context, and anything else in between. Then we'll talk about the F, which stands for figurative language, L, which stands for language, tone, diction, what they said, how they said it, in sentences and phrases, and repetition and rhyme. And the last P stands for basic persuasive, everyone say persuasive techniques like ethos, pathos, logos, and we'll get into all that in a second. So F, L, P. And then IP stands for the author's purpose, intended effect, what was important, and what were the future implications of the author writing this. So P and a bunch of different I's. So here we have a foldable that we had the students create with all these different acronyms and everything. Looks sort of like this. We put a bunch of people backflipping and having a little good time. We put our effects verbs on the side, and then when they open it, you'll see that we have all the persuasive vocabulary here. We have syntax vocabulary here, and we have figurative language imagery vocab over here. So this was the handout that I gave students. They can paste this or tape this into their notebook. It gives them the basic persuasive techniques, the language syntax, diction and order, tone techniques, repetition, and figurative language imagery, anything else. So all you got to do now is paste. Well, first you got to fold it so you can cover up your definitions. And then the rest of it you can sort of glue into your notebook. And then this way you can practice studying your terms. And now students can add examples after we find certain examples from different pieces of literature and speeches that we analyze. For instance, we have Mr. Abraham Lincoln used personification. We use personification in our summer, how we use your summer break. We use personification. We have a lot of imagery. We have repetition and different syntax like parallelism right here. So if you wanted to put neither side, if I can type here with my mouse, this is very tough. Anyway, write better than me. But we have a lot of parallelism. Both sides read the same Bible. That's a very powerful quote. Hey, you might even use that for one of your future essays. So on Wednesday, the class and I began annotating Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech during the Civil Rights Movement. He was one of many speakers that day. But his speech is very, very powerful. He uses so many different techniques. But just the fact that how needed it was makes it even more persuasive. So analyzing the context and what was going on made it even more persuasive. But he was a great speaker, and obviously a lot of what he said was ad-libbed. Some of it was not planned. Even the "I have a dream" part was not planned. He actually just had it in his heart, and so somebody yelled out, "Martin, tell the people your dream." So he started telling them, "I still have a dream," and then he went on through. So we looked at the basic persuasive techniques in the speech. We didn't really talk about all the different devices, but I really modeled for the students. If I saw something that was unique, I kind of showed it to them. But in this particular speech, we were just looking at the basic persuasive techniques and a little bit of repetition in figurative language. Homework, students were required to finish. So when students arrived on Thursday, we had them organize their thoughts into well, first they skipped the intro. They didn't have to write their little hook yet. That was for homework on Thursday's homework. For Friday, their job was to write a nice hook. So they filled in all this information regarding Martin Luther King's credentials, Dr. Martin Luther King, in his I Have a Dream speech on a specific date, addresses the topic of inequality, arguing that African Americans in the South were still being discriminated against. Quick little summary of the argument. So this is called a rhetorical precede. Now, in order to fill in these specific blanks, we need to really talk about what were the main techniques that he used. So we wrote on the board, and we kind of came up with he uses a lot of logic, a lot of repetition, a lot of metaphors and imagery and emotion, biblical allusions, and a little bit of contrast. So if you were going to write an essay, you can do 5 body paragraphs, or you can put some of these together. And so possibly, man, this is very, very tough. Let's probably put these two together. And man, this is very, very tough. You might need 4 paragraphs if you're gonna 4 body paragraphs. I think I'd be very comfortable writing 1 full paragraph on repetition, 1 on biblical allusions, probably at the end of my essay. Metaphors was very, very powerful. So if you can find some good metaphors that were very, very powerful, then you can talk about that. But obviously, he has a lot of logic and statistics that you can't leave out. So I think for us, we said repetition, figurative language, and we went biblical allusion. We left out logic and we left out all this. So obviously, we're going to have to throw this in to our essay somewhere where it fits. Okay? So by quoting the Bible, Martin Luther King is showing that he has hope and faith that one day they will be free, that all people will be free, that God is going to take every high mountain and bring it down, every high person and bring it down, every low person and bring them up, and that God is going to fix it all. And then he of course, this kind of flows all the way to the end of his speech when he constantly says, with this faith, I go back to the South with that freedom will ring, and then it will hopefully speed up that day where all God's children will say, I'm free at last, I'm free at last, I'm free at last. And so this biblical illusion is very, very powerful that one day, if man doesn't set us free or set African Americans free, then God is going to set us free. Okay, so as we got to day 5, students were supposed to show me their introductions or hooks that they created for their rhetorical précis, and they were supposed to fill out their Socratic seminar asking certain questions on what was the most effective, powerful, or over or underused device by Martin Luther King in his speech. So they all give their insights, anticipate what other people may say, listen, listen, and listen, and then of course, how would you defend yourself, or how would you add to what other people are saying? And then, of course, a reflection. So this is a Socratic seminar. We had a good time doing this. I think we're going to continue this on week 4 because we weren't quite finished yet. Hey, guys, thanks for watching the review on week 2 and 3. Hopefully these notes and PowerPoints have been helpful to you. This is something we'll be doing all year. Hopefully it will truly help you when you guys get ready for your AP tests in May. With that said, Mondays, tutoring at 3. We'll see you soon.